NHL training camps are back in action. The NHL season is right around the corner. Time to preview some divisions, starting with the Central. Hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the PHNX Hockey Podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. Hit the like button, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah, here with Petey, and back from Minnesota.
Yep.
We'll talk some Minnesota today, but we are very excited to be joined by a special guest, a member of the All-City family, CHGO Blackhawks, Mario Tirabassi. Mario, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure being here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we brought Mario in today to help us preview the Central Division, and this is a first for us. Our first year without a team in the league. Hockey. Feels a little empty, so...
Very empty.
What does it feel like to have a team? Just kidding. That's not my first question. We obviously, you guys are used to covering a team in a rebuild, much like we were. Yes. However, we don't get to see the payoff for it like you. Sorry, I'm not bitter about our situation.
I mean, it's totally understandable from your guys' perspective. I mean, You've handled everything with tremendous professionalism, and it's definitely not been easy from your guys' perspective. But I mean, it'll be different not seeing Arizona on the calendar anymore. It'll be Utah instead. Probably a much less fun place to be, as far as cities go. But it'll be different.
And by the way, that's no affront or offense to the lovely city of Salt Lake City. However,
it's cold.
If you've been to the Phoenix metro area in the middle of winter,
salty.
A nice place to go visit. Just saying. Hey, there's Rudo.
We have Rudo. We have the whole city.
The whole central. Hey. This is a hard. I will say this, Mario. When it comes to the all-city network, the Central Division is extremely well represented. We got Dallas, Chicago, and Denver. So Rudo is feeling a little bit left out today, I think, because of the Central Division preview, not including those Colorado. What did they finish? Third?
Yeah.
Third? Yeah. Rudo, third?
Bums.
Third in the Central? I thought that was a misprint.
Oh,
that was real.
All right. Well, Mario, let's start off with the Blackhawks, obviously, the team that you guys cover. What's the vibe heading into this year? Obviously, still a rebuilding team, but are there expectations that they're going to take a step forward this year, or are they still expected to be that bottom team in the Central?
Well, they better take a step forward because they're set up to do so. I think with what Kyle Davidson did this offseason, especially in free agency, he kind of learned from last season's, I don't want to say mistakes, but last season's occurrences where, injuries really took down what the Blackhawks were built to be. Now, they weren't built to be a contender, but they weren't also built to be second worst in the league. So he went out this offseason and got not only more proven NHL talent, he got some, second tier NHL talent out in free agency, bringing in Tyler Bertuzzi, bringing in Teuvo Teravainen. You bring in veteran defensemen like TJ Brody and Alec Martinez. So you insulate your lineup against injuries so that you're not going out and grabbing Zach Sanford off of waivers or trading a 7th round pick for Rem Pitlick just because you need somebody who can play 10 minutes in the NHL on an emergency basis. So going in this season, you expect Taylor Hall to be healthy. You expect Connor Bedard to take a step forward in his career in year two. And, in net last year, you had one of the, pound for pound best goaltenders, given the help in front of him and Peter Mrazek and the way that he performed, and one of the worst in Arvid Soderblom. So you go out and you get Laurent Brossoit, who's been arguably one of the better backups in the NHL in the last handful of years. So you hope to, insulate that position once Brossoit is healthy and ready to go. You believe that tandem is going to be better than what you had last year. So the expectation is, to improve. And you expect to not be in the basement of the NHL, as far down in the basement of the NHL as you were last year. Games should be more watchable this year when Connor Bedard isn't on the ice. And I just think that there's expectations to, maybe flirt with some sort of playoff position, some kind of wild card position, even if it is just for a month or two. At least be able to, say that, some games were exciting this year.
I think one thing for the NHL, though, I think it's important that Chicago is good. And I know that's hard for some people here to hear, but I do think you get those original 6 teams. I think it's important. And Connor Bedard clearly was one of the only things to watch last year. We saw this team after Taylor Hall got hurt, and the roster that the Chicago Blackhawks put on the ice in that last quarter of a season was like a who's who of professional hockey. Like, who in the hell are these guys? I will say this, these free agent signings, specifically the 2 elder statesmen on defense, and I know with Bertuzzi and Teravainen, along with Athanasiou, you got Taylor Hall. It's a better hockey team. And I think that is good for the league. And I know they're going to get the national exposure again because Bedard is there. But I'm definitely thinking Chicago is going to have a much better season. And I know that makes it more fun for you guys. But there's another team that we are very familiar with that is working their way through a rebuild. They're not here anymore. They moved to Utah. Do you think, you're talking about teams that are going through rebuilds looking for playoff spots? We talked about Chicago. I think Chicago's flirting. I don't know if this is the year. It's close. They're going the right direction. Is Utah on that same path? Is Utah in the direction like, hey, this potentially is a team that's in the playoffs? Or are they right back to the old Arizona Coyotes days when they're really going to be at the bottom?
Well, I think Utah is gone out, and I don't know if the reasons for relocation and the change in ownership changes anything. I would think that it does, knowing the history, but they went out and they were aggressive in trying to also get better through trades and free agency this offseason. Bringing in Mikhail Sergachev was a big deal. And I think, the young talent that Arizona has brought in and developed, Logan Cooley's an exceptional player. Clayton Keller is an underrated, player in the league. And I think part of that was because he wasn't getting enough attention because he was in Arizona. But I think, he's a guy that is a star playmaker in the league. And you have some young guys coming up that are going to play in important parts. I definitely feel like Utah is in that conversation to be, kind of in a wild card chase. You saw, the Coyotes last year, they had, flashes where, they looked like a team that could have been, in the hunt towards the end of the year. So I think Utah is steps ahead of the Blackhawks in their rebuilding process, even though it has been a longer process. I think they're ahead of where the Blackhawks want to be. I think Utah is going to finish ahead of Chicago when it's all said and done in the Central, just because I think there's just a little bit more there. And as far as like a rebuild goes, like Utah's younger players are ahead of where, as a group, where the Blackhawks younger players are. But the Blackhawks having Connor Bedard, I think, gives them a little bit of an advantage overall. But as far as the group together, I think Utah's young guys are a step ahead.
I would agree with that assessment. I'd probably think the same if it was still the Coyotes. But you're so right. I think changing, maybe just getting the bad vibes away from the curses that seem to exist here. Maybe it'll be a fresh slate for Utah. We talked about these teams taking a step forward, and when you look at the standings from last year, Blackhawks at the bottom, Coyotes right above them. If those two teams are on the rise, who do you see kind of now as the bottom of the barrel of the Central Division?
Well, I think the gap between the middle and the bottom is going to be smaller. I think Chicago's taking a step forward. I think Utah's taking a step forward. I would have said the Blues pre-offer sheets, but I think adding guys like Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg improve what the Blues were going to be this year. Minnesota, like I I feel like they're like one player away from like having just like a really bad season. Like if Kirill Kaprizov, like I'm not wishing for it or anything, knock on wood, I hope he's healthy all year. But if a Kaprizov goes down, like I don't see big playmakers, like game changers on Minnesota's roster that can like fill that void. And I feel like the Blues and the Wild and Utah and Chicago, like I feel like they're going to kind of be battling each other for that bottom of the division. I think Nashville is graduated from that like middle of the group with what they did this offseason, as much as it pains me to say, because I don't want anything good to happen to the Predators, but like they went out and they were super aggressive in free agency, and they definitely improved their team. So I think that between the middle and the bottom has definitely closed the gap. And I feel like the middle and the top, that's I think there's going to be a distinct division between the haves and have-nots in the Central. Like I think Nashville, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg, like they're going to be at the top, and then St. Louis, Chicago, Utah, and Minnesota, they're going to be battling it out in that bottom four. I think it's going to be a really divided division.
It's funny because the Minnesota Wild's a team that I looked at a few years ago that we're going to make a run in the playoffs. And now you look at that team and I don't know what they are. And I think goaltending is a huge issue there. I think Marc-Andre Fleury's on the swan song. He's going to do his retirement tour this season. Kirill Kaprizov still an elite player in this league, and he will carry that team. But the Minnesota Wild, to me, are not going to be able to compete until they get rid of Parise and Suter off of their books, and that happens after this season. I would start to see Minnesota starting to acquire those younger assets like you saw in Brock Faber. Minnesota will be better. It's just not now. So I do think they're going backwards. The team surprised me in the Central is you mentioned, Nashville with Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. So is this the time that this team can finally compete with the Colorado Avalanche?
I think so. I think you add two guys. Now, granted, they're not in the beginning of their primes, but you add two guys that can still get it done at a high level in Marchessault and Stamkos. You add Brady Shea on the back end. That's a big deal too. You have UC Saros in net. That's a solid goaltender that can carry the workload. And Nashville is kind of always felt like that team that just never really had that like breakout player. And I feel like Philip Forsberg has been like their driver for a while, but he's never been like that top tier or first thought like top tier stud in the NHL. But now you add Marchessault, you add Stamkos, and I wonder if, because now there's more dynamic players offensively to worry about when you play Nashville, you might end up actually opening a little bit more for Philip Forsberg, which is a scary thought for a guy who just put up nearly 100 points last year. And quietly too, right? Like when I go back and look at the stats from last year, I'm like, oh my God, Philip Forsberg, 40 goals, almost 100 points. Like it completely would go over my head. So I think they are, with what they did this offseason, they're trying to win now, and it's a drastic shift from just kind of shooting for the middle and hoping for maybe third in the division or a wild card spot. Barry Trotz took over and went out and started to be aggressive, which I mean is good for Nashville. Like that's a market that, like, if you have a competitive, exciting Predators team, like Nashville's going to get behind them for sure.
Yeah, I remember during that playoff run, I think I think that was the 2016 one or 2017. I don't remember, but unbelievable.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Oh. Mario, there's some things here.
It was 2017. Don't worry, I remember.
Oh, he remembers. All right. Okay. There's something there. Let's talk about this top group then. When you looked at the West last year, the Central really had some of the strongest teams in the whole conference, with Dallas, Winnipeg, and Colorado all finishing the season with over 100 points. I think a lot of people were surprised last season by the Winnipeg Jets specifically, especially they started the year, extending their stars and, finished second in the Central. What do you think about that top grouping, and how do you see things shaking out with the Stars, Jets, and Avalanche?
I mean, I feel like we're in for another like tight race for the top three in the division. I feel like Winnipeg, yeah, I mean, we went from Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck are going to be traded to like the next week, oh, they're both here for the rest of their careers. Like it's amazing how things can get flipped on their flipped on their head there. And those are two important pieces to Winnipeg's success. I mean, Hellebuck is, you can make an argument he's the best goaltender on the.
Oh, we just lost Mario's. Oh, there you go. You're back. We just lost your audio for a second.
Well, yeah, Connor Hellebuck, when you have a goaltender of his stature, like, you have a chance no matter what. I think Winnipeg has all the pieces to continue to stay at the top of the division. Dallas, again, like they talking about a blueprint for Chicago to go through the rebuild and to contend. Dallas is a team that continues to come up as like an example because they've been able to bring in young talent that's been really productive, really effective. They've drafted well, even when they're not drafting in the top of the first round. And look at, some of the young guys that are going to be carrying this team. Logan Stankoven was a second-round pick. You have Jake Ottinger, who was a late first-round pick, who's now a stud goaltender. You get a defensive group of Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley coming up. You have Jason Robertson. I know he's now probably not going to be available to begin the year, but you have Jason Robertson. You have Wyatt Johnston. Like, they have just different ways to beat you on any given night. They're going to be a matchup nightmare for teams this year. And I feel like them in Colorado, for me, are the 1A, 1B, take your pick to win the division this year. And I know losing Joel Pavelski he wasn't a player who, he was, in his 40s at the end of his career, just kind of finishing it out. Like, he was a key contributor to Dallas. So that's going to be interesting to see how they replace that production. But I think that they're going to be fine to be able to do it. And with Colorado, I mean, they're squarely in a win now mode. You wonder what, when Landeskog is expected to come back, what he brings to the table. Who knows the Val Nikushkin situation there, but if he comes back to the team, that's a big addition. But you're still talking about Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar, like just a wagon of a team. Like they remind me, in a sense, not necessarily how the team is built or how they play, but they remind me in a sense of those dynasty era Blackhawks where the regular season just kind of felt in the way. Like, they'll be able to get through the regular season, and as long as they're relatively healthy, they can get to the postseason, and that's when a switch can flip. Now, doesn't mean that they can take too many nights off. You'd rather have home ice in a situation than not, but I feel like Colorado is still one of those teams that they have. It's their division to lose.
It's funny because of those three top teams for me, the Winnipeg Jets are a team that I think is going to go backwards. And you talked about Scheifele, you talked about Hellebuck's phenomenal. Can he have another year like that in Winnipeg? By the way, it's dark and dreary there, and I think it's going to hit him this year. I do, because Rick Bowness is the ray of sunshine in that locker room. He's gone. He was a guy that he had some health issues, and his wife had some health issues, and it bound that team together, and they moved up in the standings, and they all played together as a team. I don't think that happens this year for Winnipeg. I think they take a step backwards. Good team. They're just not on the way up. Playoff team. But you talk about the other two, Colorado and Dallas. I look at the Dallas Stars. Sorry, Edmonton Oilers fans and DJ Bean. Dallas was the better team. Dallas is healthy and Ottinger plays. Dallas is in the Stanley Cup final, not the Edmonton Oilers. Sorry. Just is. They're better. I like Dallas a lot. Pavelski's gone. I like this team. I think Dallas is better built. I don't have to watch Suter play anymore in Dallas, which is a godsend because I hated watching Suter play in Dallas. He comes up
every week on the show.
If I can put Suter slander out in the air, I'm going to do that because I'm from Minnesota. But Colorado and Rudo brought this up. Colorado's they're going to win. I'm not sure how. Like, I look at that roster, I like, again, just like the Colorado Avalanche of the last few years, incredibly top heavy, incredibly good up there. Their back end is good. I mean, you got Makar again and Taves. It's good. It's not as good as it used to be, though. It used to be 6 deep. Now it's 4 deep. And it's always the problem I've had, Rudo. Sorry. It's the goalies. Georgiev's numbers were great last year. I wouldn't want to ride Georgiev into the playoffs. I wouldn't. And we'll see. But so I think it's Dallas Stars division to win. That's what I'm going to say today. It's the Dallas Stars division to win. And look out for Chicago. Not a playoff team yet, but they're going to be a much better team, and they're going to be teasing right along with those Utah Hockey Club teams. I don't know what the hell they are. Sorry.
The Utah Hockey Club goers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy. All right. Interesting takes, Mario. I know we have to let you go. You have a show in 10 minutes. Before we do, final thing from you. Just one bold prediction for the Central this season.
Gosh. Blues finish last.
All right.
Wow.
I like it.
Hot take, mark it, clip it, receipt it.
Producer Kevin won't be thrilled to hear that, but
Delete
that's
everything
for
I
another
say
day.
because we won't keep the receipts.
Mario, thank you so much. We really appreciate your insight. Everybody here, you can tune into the CHGO Blackhawks show daily at 12:30 every day Arizona
But don't go
time.
now.
Yeah, you can watch today's show on replay.
Yes.
But check them out. Chicago's a team on the rise. So if you're a
lot of fun there.
Lost Coyotes fan looking for a team to cheer for, check out CHGO Blackhawks and all they do. So Mario, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on. Talk to you
Awesome.
soon.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you again to Mario Tirabassi from CHGO Blackhawks. They have a great show. Check it out, even though, we felt a little salty when they won the draft lottery and got Bedard. But you know what? It all worked out for the best.
Wonder if the team would still be here if Bedard was the draft.
I would say yes.
Well, that makes me even a little more salty.
That is true. But I do.
Stop it.
I love the CHGO Blackhawks, guys. I really do.
Tirabassi, like Gino. What's the actor? Come on, Tirabassi. The kid. Rabini. Come on, Giovanni Ribisi. That's all right.
I don't know who
Giovanni
you're talking
Ribisi,
about.
You know who it is. Where's CWP when I need him?
Right? Well, we will get to our predictions for the Central after the break. But first, we are going to take a quick pause to talk about our friends over at Empire Today. Before the show started, PD was just showing me photos of his new renovations and flooring. Flooring can make or
Flooring
break.
changes your house.
Yeah, a house.
Period.
So if
Flooring changes your whole house.
Yeah, and listen, when you're looking for new flooring, something that really changes your whole house, you need the best work possible, and that's where Empire Today comes in. Not only do they do great work, they make it so incredibly easy to shop. You can do it right from your couch. You don't have to go to those big box stores, and they really, really care. They did our floor here at in our other studio. They called immediately after leaving. Is everything how you like it? Is there anything more we can do? That's great customer service. So if you're looking to make that big decision, I know it's a big commitment, definitely make sure you check out our friends at Empire Today. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. PD, any fun things coming up at Gila River Resorts and Casinos?
I don't think Cheap Trick has been there yet, and we talked about that's one of my favorite bands all time. You can see if you have not been to, even if you're not into the gambling and being a part of the largest casino floor in Arizona or the largest in casino sports book in Arizona, make sure you check out the theater at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. No seat farther than 75 feet away from the stage, the most intimate theater you're going to see. And much of the stars of the 80s and 90s are swinging their way through the South Chandler area. So make sure you check out everything that you can find entertainment-wise at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos at Wild Horse Pass. And where do you find that, Leah?
You can find that at playathila.com for more details. As always, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Tons of events coming up all fall with Cardinals away watch parties and more. So check it out. Great restaurants.
Biggest TV ever.
If you're looking for a staycation.
The sports bar thing.
Yeah, just so much to do. Check it out. Again, that's visit playathila.com for more details. All right. Let's get back into it. We're putting everybody on the spot here. Central Division predictions.
Okay.
And we're going to make a graphic and tweet it out after. So the receipts.
So this is real? Like we have to do this? Oh.
Am I prepared? No. Shane, are you prepared? Because I'm making you do this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Shane's always prepared, though, because he's a degenerate gambler.
Too
and
true.
one thing degenerate gamblers do is they can rate things in the sports world based on numbers. And so I trust him to come up with something quickly.
So, Petey, you go first because you came out of the gate. You were ready to commit to Dallas #1 in this division. What are your picks?
The Dallas Stars are first. They win this division again, and I think it's on the back of Ottinger. I know Robertson's going to start the season off on the sidelines with a cyst he just had removed from his foot, but he's going to be ready to play. He's going to have a better season. Their better players need to be better players. That's what held them out of the Stanley Cup final this season. I think they're going to gel on the back end. I think they're going to defend extremely well. And coming in second, surprise pick, I'm going with Steven Stamkos-led Nashville Predators, vaulting all the way into second place in the Central.
Wow.
I think UC Saros is going to be a guy fighting for the Vezina Trophy. I think Nashville's in second. I'm going to go Colorado third, Winnipeg 4. This is where it gets hard. So the top 4 are the same, but they're just a little bit different in order. Can Utah jump over Minnesota? The answer is yes. Can they jump over St. Louis? The answer is yes. Wow. Utah in 5th. I'm gonna put Minnesota down farther. Minnesota 5th.
No, you said Utah 5th.
Oh, Utah 5th. Utah 5th. Chicago, St. Louis, Minnesota in last place in the Central Division.
Wow. Hot takes.
My
Hot takes
home state, Minnesota Wild in last.
Wow.
I just think they're going to have problems in their room. I think they start losing. And I think it's losing breeds losing. And I think it's going to be a horrific year in Minnesota this year.
All right. Okay. Well, write it down. Let us know in the chat what you think.
Or don't write it down because it's
I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down. I mean, you think I'm going to be right? I don't think so. I feel like every year we do this, I feel so confident. And then like something crazy happens. There's always a surprise team.
Yeah.
There's always a surprise team on the up and a surprise team on the down. All right. I'll go next. I'm gonna go the other way. I hope Rudo's still here. I'm picking Colorado to win the division.
Sounds like you're pandering to Rudo.
I'm not. I think it's their time to come back on top. I think they dealt with a lot of, issues last season with injuries and such. Give me Colorado 1. Give me Dallas 2. I still really like the Stars a lot, and I think it's going to be tight, like we talked about with Mario. I think it'll be a tight race between the top teams. So I have Colorado 1, Dallas 2. I'll go hot take with you, and I'll put Nashville 3.
There we go. I like it.
I'll put Winnipeg 4. I agree with you that they might take a little slide, but I still like that team. And you're right. This is where it gets hard. I'm going to put my faith in Bill Armstrong and the Utah Hockey Club in 5th as well. And then I will go Minnesota, Chicago, St. Louis. I agree. I think St. Louis is... Hopefully everyone enjoyed that in their headphones. Shane?
Well, according to our friends over at Bet365, your Nashville Predators in 3rd place is not a hot take. That's about where they have them finished.
Okay. I was trying to find the odds, but while Petey was talking, So
our friends at Bet365 have the Stars to win the division as the odds-on favorite at plus 190. Avs plus 220. Predators plus 333.
Interesting.
Winnipeg plus 600. Minnesota plus 1,200. Blues plus 1,600. Utah plus 2,000. And our good old friends in Chicago at plus, can anybody guess?
3.
9,000.
Wow. I mean, that's to win the division, but yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, so that's their order. What's yours?
Wow.
Mine's pretty similar, although I don't believe in the Preds as much as a lot of people do.
Okay.
I love Steven Stamkos, and if you've been following along with my hockey betting for a while, I have such a love for that Lightning team that is no longer that Lightning team. So I'm going to hate bet against him because he left my sweet baby boys in Tampa. I'm going to do an actual hot take, and I think, the knife has been twisted so far. Let's just twist it even harder.
No.
Utah's going to get 3rd in this division.
Wow.
I'm going Colorado 1, Dallas 2, Utah 3.
Wow.
Winnipeg 4, Nashville 5, Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago.
That is a hot take.
Okay. All right. So those are our takes. Again, we'll be tweeting this out later on our account at PHNX_hockey. So let us know on Twitter and in our diehard only Discord if you agree, disagree. And if you're here in the chat right now, send us your predictions for the Central Division. I'll read a couple off before the show ends. And also while you're here on YouTube, be sure to throw us a little thumbs up like on this video. It helps us out immensely. We will be previewing each of the divisions week by week, so tune in weekly with special guests from the All City family and beyond. So I'll let everyone know which division we're getting to next week. We wanted to get Central out of the way, the Coyotes' old division, now Utah, for those inclined to follow that team. But let's shift our focus to some headlines around the NHL. We'll start with this one because Shane brought up the Lightning. Just named a captain today. Victor Hedman is now the captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning, which I think was the right move. Kind of felt like he was next in line.
He was the guy.
That's a no-brainer for the Lightning. And another captaincy announcement today, Nick Foligno will be the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. I also felt like that move made sense, and it's kind of a lot of people are saying, and I agree, that, you know, he's that veteran presence. He'll wear the C, and then he'll pass the torch to Bedard in a couple years.
Yeah,
time.
it's funny because Nick Foligno is not a guy that when you look at captains at the Chicago Blackhawks, Jonathan Toews is the captain. Yeah, and it's hard to move on from that. And we take that back to Arizona when you have Shane Doan as your captain for so long. That's Jonathan Toews. Nick Foligno, it's a short-term stopgap and for Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard can't wear it this young. I think he hasn't done anything in the league to be that guy yet. There's so much more to being a captain than just being your best player. So I think this is a great choice for him becoming the captain. And I do think Victor Hedman, Stanley Cup champion, leader of the group, veteran guy, automatic. But there's another team now that doesn't have a captain. And that's the Utah Hockey Club that we knew so well.
Yeah, and them not having a captain is something we talked about like monthly on this show.
Like, do you know their last captain was Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
Insane.
He's been on 4 teams since then. Okay, enough said. Moving on.
All right. Well, somebody who was a captain very early in their career is one Sidney Crosby, who just signed a 2-year, $17.4 million extension with the Penguins, which averages out to 8.7. Sidney Crosby has an $8.7 million cap hit since 2008, 2009.
That's insanity.
Do you think Sidney Crosby knows that he doesn't have to match his cap hit to his number and his birthday and everything? I mean, if anyone's going to do it, it's Sidney Crosby, who is probably like the most superstitious human being on the planet.
Wow. See, I didn't even input. Did you know that?
Really?
Well,
this is like the thing.
I knew it was 8.7 million.
I know he was very superstitious. I knew it was like that's his everything is 87. I did not know that his AAV has been 87 since.
I didn't either.
Since 2008, 2009.
Wild.
8.7 million. And by the way,
we
just a couple weeks ago talked about Leon Draisaitl's contract. We talked about
108.
Yeah,
or just
number to 108. Yeah, 10-8. Like the dude's not getting paid. Like he's Sidney Crosby.
He's Sidney Crosby. That's what I'm saying. We just talked about Leon Draisaitl now being the highest paid player in the NHL. And listen, I know Sidney Crosby. He's 37 years old now, so it's not like he's gonna get that ticket now. But it's kind of when you look in retrospect at what this past deal that's ending, what he could have got.
Yes.
But that's the one thing about Sid. He has always said it. He's a team guy. It's about the team, and he wants to win. And you know what? It worked because he's won 3 Stanley Cups. So good for him. He talked about that the decision, why it took so long to make the decision, is he really had to debate how long he wanted to keep playing. The day Sidney Crosby retires will be a very sad day for me. He's my favorite player all time. One of the reasons I love hockey and love watching the NHL.
It won't be for a while. He's going to retire in 2087.
Yeah.
Oh, 2087. You're going to hold on.
True.
For a minute.
But, 2-year deal. It's really hard to think about the fact that his career's coming to an end soon. What are your thoughts on this deal, it being 2 years? And do you think Pittsburgh can do anything in that 2 years?
There's a couple things. First of all, what you said about team being bigger than the self is really important for Sidney Crosby, because I do think you hear that from a lot of players, and it's not about the money. It's not about the money. I've heard it for teams and players for as long as I can remember in the National Hockey League. This is real. And you have to understand the way with a salary cap, if you take more money, there's less money to have better players. It's just math. And so with Sidney Crosby, him actually practicing what he preaches, could he get more money? Absolutely. Absolutely, he could. He's still their best player.
Yeah.
He's still their best player. And every year you think he's going to diminish and decline. He does not. So you know he's going to put up those kind of numbers. The other thing, I'm glad to see that he was thinking team and allowed the team to get better, because the better the team is, better it is for him. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to be on a miserable team. You want to win. Yeah. You don't want to be on a miserable hockey team because life is miserable. You want your life to be good? Win. Yeah. Winning makes your life more fun. Yeah. And like us going to work here, we do it because we have fun here. Yeah. It's not because we're all getting rich. Well, the Diefenloch does, but that's because he gambles. But the rest of us aren't getting rich here, but we do it because we like being here. And so I respect that. To the term, so he's got this year plus 2. Reasonable. He didn't sign that 6, 7, 8 year deal.
Yeah, where he's going to be 42. Yeah. You know, he'll be 39.
It's reasonable. Again, the 40. Money's more than fair. The term is more than fair. I think this is what you'd like to see out of pro athletes and professional sports more often. But I guess he's Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, he is the GOAT.
Yeah, Cheryl, Pittsburgh resident, also dreading the day Sidney Crosby retires. But I was happy to see they can get a deal done. I think, especially heading into training camp, you don't want those storylines looming over the team.
I'm going to do something very Sean Deposit-esque.
Okay.
Can we stop loosely throwing around that term?
Term?
We just say the GOAT for anything now. He's not the GOAT. He's one of the GOATs.
Yeah,
he's not the GOAT.
He's not the GOAT. The GOAT is
he's my GOAT.
99 is the GOAT.
Settle down.
99 is the GOAT. And when it comes to hockey, the GOAT is the word the greatest. And the greatest is 99. Sorry. It just is. You're right. That's fair.
Even though he was playing against a bunch of farmers, but it's fine.
It's still true.
OOT GOAT? One of the
yeah, that's
GOAT?
fair.
OOT GOAT?
Utgott. That sounds like something you'd find in Sweden. Like a dish you'd find in Sweden. Utgott.
It totally does. All right. Well, another player who's on the other side of his career signing a big deal is Lucas Raymond with Detroit. He's 22 years old and he signed an 8-year, $64.6 million deal, which is, I'll do the math for you. It's an 8.075 AAV. Lucas Raymond set NHL career highs in goals, assists, and points. And he led Detroit in points. And he also set a career record in power play goals last season. So somebody who's on the up, different era of his career. But Lucas Raymond on Detroit, your thoughts?
It's funny because when I looked at this contract, he's 22. And when I thought of Lucas Raymond, I thought, he's got to be 25 by now, right? Like I know he's been around a couple of years. It's his third year. Like, dude's 22 years old.
Unreal.
This kid, 30 goals. His first season, he gets over 20. He's going to be a perennial 30-goal scorer in this league. I think if Detroit's going to move forward and become a playoff team again, I think it's going to be on the back of a player like this. I love this deal. I think he is offensively gifted. You talked about some of the names that are in Detroit, and his name comes up first. This is a good signing. I think Detroit's on their way up. We've said that for the last 2 or 3 seasons. We keep saying it's Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo are on the way up. This year,
it's got to happen to one of them soon.
I think this is the year that that Detroit finally breaks through. And I think you make a player like this at 22 years old, happy to see it. 22 years old RFA, and you know you have him locked up for the very near future. I think this is great for the Detroit Red Wings. And now this kid can play. He doesn't have to worry about it and worry about where he's going to be playing a year from now. So I'm pretty excited about this signing in Detroit.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about Detroit as a whole when we get to previewing the Atlantic, but that's for...
Is that what they're in now?
Day. I have no idea. I
thought they're in the West.
Yeah.
They were in the West. I know. Can you imagine a Western matchup? Phoenix and Detroit, the big Western Conference matchup.
I used to hate that because the Red Wings fans, I'm sorry if you're a Red Wings fan, the Red Wings fans in Gila River Arena were so obnoxious. I was a teenager and I was like having beef with people in the stands. Hated them, and it made me hate Detroit for years. I was also a Penguins fan during the time that they were always facing off in the Cup final. So I've turned over a new leaf. It's a new era of Red Wings hockey, so I'm open to cheering for them now. But at the time, not so much. There's a few PTOs out there. PD, we mentioned training camps kick off, I believe, tomorrow. Actually, a couple of names that are recognizable here, including former Coyote Travis Dermott's on a PTO. You have other names like Tanner Pearson, Matt Martin, Max Pacioretty.
Tyson Barrie is on one. He's another guy that you're looking at, a guy that perennially a top 4 defenseman. He's at the Calgary Flames on a PTO. Is he going to get picked up? And one of the things to look at these PTO guys, like Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, another big name, Sammy Blais, who's a physical presence, who's going on a PTO to Vancouver. I see some of these guys playing in the NHL this year. I do. But one of the things on these PTOs is they're not going to play for the teams that they're playing for in training camp. What this does is it keeps them in front of other GM's eyes, keeps them on the ice every day, and gets them an opportunity to potentially play in a game. And if you can play in a game, somebody's going to get hurt somewhere around the league. Somebody's going to get waived somewhere around the league, and these guys are going to get opportunities. Do I think this is the last game Sammy Blais has played in the NHL? I don't. Matt Martin is going to the Islanders again. Some of these guys are going to come up. The one thing about PTOs, though, is they get the short end of the stick. If you're looking at if you're going to training camp as the Arizona Coyotes, and you're looking at a player that was your 2nd or 3rd round draft pick 2 years ago, or a guy that's here on a PTO, whether your draft pick's getting the better spot. He's going to get more opportunities in games. He's going to get more ice time in practices, and he's going to get the better opportunity with the organization. What these PTOs do, one, they help fill out your practices because you need bodies and practices that can keep up at an NHL level, and they're there for that inevitability. If someone gets hurt, you've got an experienced guy around that might be able to hang on and actually stick around and play games for you to start that season.
Someone notably not on that list, Phil Kessel.
The thrill.
And there's been a lot of discussion this past week on Twitter from, friends of Phil and Paul Bissonnette's been one of the people beating this drum about Phil Kessel and, wanting to get him back in the league. It's been a while since he played. He obviously won a Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights 2 years ago, but it hasn't really been smooth sailing for him since. He's obviously older. I thought he would kind of retire right after that win. What a way to go out on top. Doesn't seem to be the case. Phil, you guys, go way back from his time in Arizona. This week on 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman speculated that Phil Kessel might be a fit in Columbus. They just added James Van Riemsdyk on a 1-year deal. He kind of fits in that similar veteran presence, and with everything that organization's going through, to have that presence in the locker room, I think can only help. What do you think about Phil?
And here's the problem with Phil. I like Phil. I think Phil can score goals in the National Hockey League. I think he can still score goals in the National Hockey League. One of the things you saw when he left here at Arizona was his ability to keep up with the pace of play in Arizona. He had some issues playing both ends of the ice. He had some issues with speed. He went to Vegas. They played all 82 regular season games. He got 14 goals, which is respectable when you're playing in a bottom 6 forward role. He was better at his all-around game, and he didn't get to play in the playoffs. In their run to the Stanley Cup, he was not a regular guy that was in the playoff lineup, and he thought he had something to offer. And I had an opportunity to talk to him in the playoffs. He just wanted to play. I've talked to him since then, and he wants to play. He says, there are guys out there that are playing in the National Hockey League that I am better than. And he really has this confidence level in his offensive ability, his ability to score on the power play. And that's where he thinks he can really help a team. So it's going to have to be a team where there's a really good fit. I don't know if he can take top 6 minutes right now. That's no offense, Phil. I'm not sure he can. I do think he can play a secondary power play role. I think he can play an offensive role, get offensive touches in a bottom 6 forward role. I know he's going to compete. He's going to be in decent shape because he's been skating now for over a year and a half
still
here.
In Arizona.
Yeah, he's still here in Arizona. I do think it's not about the money anymore, so you don't have to open up the bankroll.
They can probably pay him like the league minimum.
And he'd be fine with that. He would be. And he's still got the streak going in games played. Yeah. He hasn't set out a game yet, and he hasn't retired. So he's still the games played still intact. But even though he's not under contract. I think he can help as long as he's not taking away a spot from a 21 or 22-year-old player that needs to get into the NHL right now. If there's a 19 or 20-year-old that could really use the American League or another year to bake, I think Phil Kessel can bring you a positive guy in the locker room, bring that guy that's going to help put up numbers. And I do think he's a guy that you could see here in Arizona, the players gravitated towards Phil Kessel. I think that's his personality, and I think he can help.
Do you think he is on an NHL roster on opening night?
I don't. I really don't. Optimistically, I'd like to see him do that. I like the Columbus thing is interesting because of their unusual circumstances. I just don't think it's going to happen for Phil. I'm sorry. You sit out a complete year, and it's really difficult. So I hope for the best for Phil. I hope he can find a place to get on and play again because I think there is still something left. I just don't know if I see it this year on opening night.
It's a bummer, but we will follow along with whatever happens there, especially since there's a lot of Arizona tie-ins with Phil Kessel. Last point on our around the NHL notes before we move on into some ASU talk is that Dakota Joshua just put out a statement via the Vancouver Canucks that he has testicular cancer. I was, very impressed by the fact that he was extremely open about it, that they put out a statement. He's obviously going to miss training camp and perhaps the start of the season. But what's most important, of course, is that he takes care of his health. It sounds like, he caught it early. I just want to commend Dakota Joshua, for putting that out there. I think it's so important that everybody, we're vocal and having conversations about these things, even though, it's sort of a stigmatized type of cancer, if you will. If you're a guy, make sure that you're checking that if something's wrong, you are going to the doctor, because it's really important. And I'm very, I just commend Dakota Joshua for speaking up about it.
I think, I'll do the hockey side first. I think this hurts the Vancouver Canucks. I think Dakota Joshua is finding his way in the NHL. I think he's a physical presence on a team that really is going to drive their play using physical players. I think there's going to be a mean, tough team in Vancouver, which he will be a part of. Having said that, what you said is the most important thing, because this is difficult for people to talk about at times, and it can be a sensitive subject for people. And there are kids right now across this country and in this valley that are concerned and have questions. And I think when you see a player or a person of this stature coming out and saying, hey, this is here, it's happening to me, I think that does help. I think it is a big deal. So if you have any concerns, make sure you talk to your whether it's your parents, your counselor, your doctor. Just reach out and make sure you get someone to take a look if you've got any concerns, because I think something like this can really help people and bring this back out into the light. And hey, this is a conversation that needs to happen.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, we're going to wrap up with some ASU news and notes, but we have a lot of great events coming up here at PHNX, as we always do. You can check out our website, gophnx.com/events, to see all of them. I was out, as was Shane, at the Chicken and Pickle tailgate last weekend before the Cardinals game against the Rams.
Do people know where Chicken and Pickle is?
Chicken and Pickle is literally like in the shadow of State Farm Stadium. Yeah, it's walking distance. It's
Glendale
right there.
Heard of it? It's
right there at Westgate. Amazing place for a tailgate. They have games.
Place. So you don't need to drive. You park.
So our tailgate includes parking. You get food. You get drinks. Great vibes. It's a blast. Like, what a place to have a tailgate. Come out this weekend. Cardinals are playing the Lions. If you're going to the game, great place to tailgate. And of course, presented by our friends at Sanderson Ford as well. So come join us.
Ford Country. I said I would never sing that song on the show, and I just did.
Well,
thanks, Max.
It's a bop.
You're welcome.
It's a bop. To be fair.
Is that a thing that kids are saying today? It's a bop?
It's a bop. It's a banger.
Banger, I've heard.
Yeah.
That slaps. But I didn't hear it's a bop.
There you go.
I will be using that later today.
I think it had its time and kind of went. Leah still uses it a lot.
Bop. So bop is already passed?
I think
Bop
so.
to the top.
I never heard it. Like, it slaps. I liked it. What was a banger? That's a banger. Yeah. I thought banger's already been done, but bop. I'm going to use bop today. Okay. I promise I will use bop today.
Looking forward to that. And one other thing, we are taking over Mullet Arena on October 12th. With this crew here, and tickets are sold out. Thank you to everybody.
Sorry, losers.
What? Thank you to everybody who bought tickets to our first ASU hockey takeover of the season. We'll all be together watching as ASU plays Michigan in opening weekend on that Saturday. I'm so excited for this. And for those who didn't get tickets, because I know there's some of you, first of all, we're already planning the next one for the weekend they play DU, which is going to be an unbelievable matchup. So that's number one. But number two, if you're already going to the game, if you're a season ticket holder, if you can't go to the game, we're doing a pregame meetup at Zips on Mill Ave. And you can still buy tickets for that pregame meetup on our website right now, gophnx.com/events.
That's my favorite part about it.
What's
Zips?
part?
Oh my God.
What's the best part?
We're meeting up at Zips.
On Mill Avenue.
On Mill.
Do you understand how old I am?
What is that? Is this on a Friday?
It's a Saturday.
Saturday night.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Saturday night on
you know
Mill,
what I'm gonna do.
On Zips.
And by the way, ASU football plays that Friday night, so there's no competing traffic with ASU football. It's just
going to happen,
ASU
right?
I don't know what's going to happen.
I might miss the game and just be thrown in a circle.
With zipperitas.
I have a pretty good chance I'll be throwing it.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what you
ASU
get.
hockey?
I
That's
know.
their home opening weekend. It's a big team. It's a big. What do you call them? Power 4? What is it?
Power 5.
Power 5. I don't know.
I don't know
it's
what
a
it
big
is in
deal.
hockey.
They play in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
it's a Big Ten school.
Yeah,
it's a big
deal.
It's
a Power 4 now because of the Pac RIP. But
so it's Power 4.
Different in hockey.
Is the Big Ten a Power 4? Okay, so it's Power 4 match.
Big 10, Big 12,
That's huge.
SEC.
Honestly, it's going to be a really good hockey game. It's going to be really good vibes because I think this is a good hockey team.
Great vibes with all the diehards in attendance.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I'm sincerely looking forward to this. I haven't been in the mullet since
the last game.
of the Coyotes. So I'm really excited to see a positive experience in that building. And
not one where
I'm going to get behind the Sun Devil hockey crew this year.
Yeah, and by the way, Greg Powers tweeted out yesterday the center ice, the Coyotes logo is gone from the ice. It's kind of bittersweet. It looks amazing for ASU. I'm excited for them, but kind of sad because it's end of an era.
Let's jump on their wagon.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, if you already have tickets, if you've got tickets on your own separate from the takeover, if you're a season ticket holder or just want to come hang out with us, you can buy tickets for our pregame meetup. That includes food and drink. So that's available on our website, gophnx.com/events. And let's stick with ASU. Because there is some kind of biggish news involving ASU. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, the whole thing with the NCAA and the CHL. Just for some background, if you play a single game in Major, Junior, and CHL, you are not eligible to play in the NCAA. There's now a class action lawsuit trying to fight against that. We talked about it in depth on a recent audio podcast a couple weeks ago. So if you missed that, you can go listen. But Braxton Whitehead of the WHL's Regina Pats has received verbal commitment for the 25-26 season from ASU, which is the first NCAA commitment for a CHL player since that proposed class action lawsuit. This is like the first step, and it's just crazy that it involves Arizona State of all teams. Whether or not it's successful, Whitehead and ASU are both confident that the restrictions will be lifted before he would join the Sun Devils in 2025. Whitehead's a 20-year-old forward, and he's entering his fifth and final year with the Pats. He's played 195 games in the WHL. What are your thoughts on this?
It's interesting because if you want to break down doors and break down barriers, somebody's got to be the first.
Yeah.
And for him to do what he did and commit to a major university while still playing in the Western Hockey League is a big deal. This is the first of many. I don't understand. My belief is he's going to play for ASU. I don't know how long this ban can last by the NCAA because of what we talked about when I talked to Coach Powers, things like the NIL and the amount of high school kids can get NILs now. Yeah. Well, these guys get, what did I say? I forgot the amount.
It was like
$200 a month.
Yeah, ridiculous.
A month. Not like 200, and that's just to help them their living expenses. So I don't consider them to be pro athletes. I think what's one of the biggest barriers in this is the way Canadian Junior Hockey League has looked at this. They've always wanted to keep this out of arm's reach for those players as well. They really wanted that division. I think what you're going to see now, though, that those junior teams are responsible for education. I'm going to say that you're going to see this go away. And the CHL in Canada and the NCAA will become much more close because I don't think there's still going to be a max exodus. I don't think you're going to see half the roster of these WHL teams leaving to go join the NCAA. I just don't. I think this is the scenario. Braxton White says an overage. That he has nowhere else to play. Mm-hmm. So why would you shut the door on him, giving him an opportunity to play in the NCAA? I don't think that's fair. So I believe he's the first of many. I do think this is going to get overturned, and can it happen in as quickly as 12 months will be the question. Can it happen by next hockey season? That's the only concern.
Yeah. And he also had a great quote in the ESPN article about this whole thing. And he said, ASU slogan is be the tradition. And I think they love the idea of me being a trailblazer throughout all this and paving the way with NCAA and CHL relations. And it's such a great tie-in, the be the tradition slogan for ASU, that everything ASU hockey does is establishing a tradition and culture. And I love that the first of these commitments from a CHL player to the NCAA is with ASU. So great quote there from Braxton Whitehead, and we'll see what happens with this whole situation. Before we wrap up, there was an NCHC Media preseason poll. And, we've had Coach Powers on the show. We had Ty Murchison on the show. You talked to Lucas Sillinger. And, everyone's feeling really confident. Yep. They're, the NCHC is a super, super tough conference. But for the players and coaching staff, they're feeling great. The media poll, maybe not feeling as great. So let's take a look. This is the NCHC preseason media poll. Denver's listed number 1. I think there's no arguing with that. Defending champs. North Dakota, number 2, your alma mater. Colorado College at 3. St. Cloud State at 4. Omaha at 5. Western Michigan at 6. Minnesota, Duluth at 7. What haven't I said yet? ASU, because they are 8th on this list. And then you have Miami of Ohio 9th.
8 out of 9?
Yeah.
8 out of 9.
Yeah.
And after we heard Ty Murchison come on this show and say they're national championship or bust.
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
What? So here's the deal.
Yeah.
Ruby Snacks. So here's the problem. ASU's new to this division. ASU is a Sunbelt school. ASU is a Southern school. This is media members. So dudes in Grand Forks. You think he's thinking ASU hockey right now? No. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think ASU is better than that. I think one of the things ASU's advantage is that they're older. They've got a lot of grad students playing this year. They're heavy on seniors. They're going to have one freshman. They're anticipating one freshman playing in their lineup this season. I think this is going to be a team that catches teams by surprise. I saw them practice. Homer Gibson, dude can play. Like, their goaltender's elite. Like, this kid can win games on his own. This Arizona State team is going to be better than second to last in this division. And one of the things about the NCHC is if you're 500 in the NCHC, you're in the NCAA tournament. This is the SEC of college football. This is the best conference in college hockey. You just need to be at or near 500. And I think ASU will be there. Yeah. And so I think this preseason poll is exactly that. It's just a preseason poll of people that just don't really know ASU, that don't understand ASU and where ASU is going to fall in. I think ASU is going to be a very good hockey team. Do I think they're going to upend North Dakota and Denver and take the top 3 spots? I don't. This season, I don't. I think that's in their future. I just don't think it's right now. Yeah. I think this is going to be a middle of the road ASU team. Middle of the road in the best conference is a great first season. This is a team that's going to finish 5 or 6, and I think that's outstanding for ASU.
So our friends over at Bet365 think they're going to finish 6th-ish.
Okay.
About.
See,
I think that's more realistic.
Yeah, they have just a bit longer odds than St. Cloud State to win the national championship. Wow. They're at plus 3,000. So if you want that at Bet365, you can get that.
Yeah.
Along with many other things. At Colorado College plus 5,000, who was picked to finish fifth in this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was
also 2 MAC schools. Traditional MAC schools are in the NCHC.
Miami and
Western Michigan.
Oh.
The MAC has Western, Central, and Eastern Michigan. Fun fact.
Wow.
Anyway.
Of course, Shane would know that. What I was going to say about the whole thing is I think that the truth of how the season will unfold is somewhere in the middle between Ty Murchison's proclamation on our show and that media poll, and reading the odds and seeing that Bet365 has them 6th. That feels right to me. That 5th, 6th.
But it's coming.
Spot.
It's coming soon, Leah.
I mean, I think they're definitely on the rise. Joining a conference is a massive first step, and I can't wait.
How are you feeling though? And I know it's time, but I'll get us out of here in 2 minutes. How are you feeling though? Training camp's opening across the NHL tomorrow, and we won't be a part of it. How are you feeling?
I am feeling emotionless. I think this has been the first NHL season since I've been a hockey fan that I haven't felt excitement. And I know that's kind of a vulnerable thing to say on the show where we talk about hockey every single week. I was chatting in our Die Hard Only Discord about fantasy hockey, and a lot of people are feeling the same way. A lot of people saying, hey, I'm not doing fantasy this year, or does someone else want to be commissioner of the league this year? I did fantasy hockey for 13 straight years as commissioner. I don't think I'm going to do it this year. I just it's so hard for me to get up and feel excited. I think this will pass. I'm still a hockey fan. I'll be a hockey fan for the rest of my life. This year might just kind of like what you said when you got let go from the Coyotes, you were just completely disconnected for about a year. I think that a similar thing is going to happen, not fully because we're doing the show weekly. We're going to talk about all the NHL news, not in that sense, but I just, that fire and passion and excitement that I always have, I just don't have it. And it's hard. And I think maybe today I feel like this, maybe tomorrow I'll feel different. I think everything ebbs and flows, and I think
it's a new experience. And I think
it's a new experience. And if you're feeling excited or if you're feeling disconnected, whatever you're feeling is normal and appropriate, because we're all mourning a loss.
Yes. Agreed.
But
I just wanted to talk about that because
I'm at a weird spot. I'm at a weird spot with it. So
well, I'm glad you shared that, because we've missed that for a while. Where we're at with the team and a franchise that we've been really emotional connected to for years. So thanks, Leah.
Yeah. Well, ending on that note,
I know,
we want you. We want you to become a diehard, so because it's pack therapy.
Here, hold on. We need to transition.
Oh.
There we go.
There we go.
Back on the fun train.
Right. We want you to become a diehard. We want you to join that diehard only Discord to talk hockey, whatever it is. We're always talking hockey, like the latest NHL news in there. Petey and I are in there all the time. You can DM us. We can talk in that chat. If you're just a fan of any Arizona sports team, there's a channel for everyone. It's so fun. Great conversation, and many other perks to becoming a diehard, like a free shirt or hat, sign up, 20% off merch, 20% off on events, and access to diehard only content as well. So become a diehard today. Go phnx.com/diehard. Anything else before we get out of here?
That's it. I'm excited. Hockey is getting closer and closer, and I know we got the ASU thing. And lastly, there's a big game, high school game this Friday. The big rivalry, Pinnacle Pioneers and Notre Dame Saints are playing it. They're making the Notre Dame Saints are making a cancer awareness game, and they're bringing some attention to cancer and leukemia. So I'm going to try to pop by and check out one of the biggest rivalries in high school hockey this Friday night at the Ice Den. It's coming.
Still a lot of hockey in the Valley, so go support. I got my Matt Shots
did you?
Magnet for my car
Awesome.
the other day, so I'm excited about that.
Hockey's still here.
Yeah, hockey's still here. We're still talking hockey every single week and on audio only episodes, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. We have a really exciting guest this week. Are you going to reveal it?
I think we can.
Okay. Who's the guest?
The guest on this Friday's episode will be Todd Walsh. The storyteller will be on, and we're going to tell stories. If you heard the Bob Heat House telling old-time Coyote stories, today it's Todd, or Friday will be Todd Walsh's turn.
Really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, because we do have weekly audio-only shows, and if you're listening on audio, make sure you subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel so you don't miss when we go live every Wednesday at noon. Everybody here in the chat, thank you. Hit the like button whether you're watching live or later. Thank you again to Mario Tirabassi from CHGO Blackhawks for joining us to help preview the Central Division. The division previews will continue on until the start of the season, so that's what you can come to expect every Wednesday between now and the start of the season. But thank you so much again. You can follow all of us on Twitter at SPetersHockey, at Leah Merrill, at Shane Deef. You can follow the show at PHNX_hockey. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.